All right. Well, good morning. Welcome to Tacobout Live and with Frank and Manny here on Taco Tuesday. Good morning, brother. Good morning, man. And so it is nice and brisk out there this morning, right?
It is. It's nice and cool, man. I was running a little late this morning. Had to take the dogs out from the garage. We got them in there. We got them under some thermal, some of those heat lamps, and
yeah.
so I know they're cozy. And they probably didn't like me waking them up, but they got to go out and do their stuff.
Yeah, I had to wake up my dogs right before I got over here as well to go out and do their thing, and they were moving. They were actually moving pretty slow, man. So, I was moving kind of slow, man. I was nice and toasty and
Yeah.
warm, and got out there and it was like 30 degrees or something like that, which is odd over here. I mean, it's not really.
Yeah.
Texans were not really used to that.
And as we're saying that, bro, I'm thinking about the folks up north. Of course, they
Oh my
they kind of
gosh,
laugh and joke about, for us, when we break out with
With the long sleeve,
with
right?
the winter wear. But up north, it's actually having some drastic effects on folks. People have died,
Yeah.
and so of course, we took a real quick turn right there into the somber. But anyways, into that somber news, and so a lot of families are being affected out there. But thanks for joining us, and we got a lot of things to talk about today, man.
We do. I mean, it's the last show of the year, right? Of 2022. Next week we'll be in 2023, and so it's been a tough year. I don't see it really getting any smoother this year, man. With the indications in regards to what is happening, even though we got a whole bunch of so-called Republicans in the House. I mean, the Senate still controlled by Democrats, but still stuff is still getting pushed out that is doing no good for the country. We got this, what is it, $1.7 trillion omnibus bill,
Yeah.
right? That is being pushed. That's going to be getting pushed out, and folks, it's nothing. It's completely drastic, man. It's going to damage this country even further, and it's amazing to me that they haven't even really read it. I think they even had to, like, before it wasn't even ready for Biden to sign. By the time they got it to his desk, right, they were still putting stuff together, but people still voted on it. Frank, that's what's amazing to me, man.
And I was going to say, as you were saying that earlier, bro, with with Republicans, because you were talking about the Senate being controlled by the Democrats. Well, with Republicans like the rhinos we have in the House,
Yeah.
who needs Democrats?
Who needs Democrats,
they're,
right?
they're going to vote for it. They're going to cross the party lines, go across the aisle,
Yeah.
and they're going to vote for more taxation. I was thinking, man, I mean, about the billions of dollars. The president of Ukraine came down here. They roll out the red
my
carpet.
gosh.
They treat him better than they treat our returning veterans and families that are undergoing through real crisis here in America. And he walked away with more billions of our dollars in his pocket. They were talking about the Patriot anti-missile defense system that we're giving them, and so we are deliberately poking the bear, which is Russia.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Russia is making alliances with China and Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah.
And so, look, man, we got a lot of issues here at home, man. This is our money, and I was thinking about that. We get taxed, and we want. If we're going to get taxed, of course, I'm for drastically reducing, repealing taxes, rolling back on how much money our government takes out of our pocket. But if we're gonna spend it on American issues,
On American issues.
on Americans, man. Look, folks over there in those countries, they fight, they battle, they kiss and they make up, and then they have some disgusto, years, decades later. We can't be rushing in, but we know that that's just top cover, Manny, for what is really going on is money laundering.
It is money laundering, and I'm all about helping people in need, right? I mean, but the reality, Frank, is that this country, Ukraine country, has been known for its corruption. It's been known for money laundering. It's been known for all kinds of atrocities, with amongst their own people.
Yeah.
I look at this photo here. I'm going to put it on our screen here real quick for those who are listening. Zelensky came in and brought in the Ukrainian flag, and it was actually flown in our Congress, right?
Yeah.
At our Capitol, a foreign flag, right, that is basically provoking war with other countries, was flown in our Capitol, in our Congress, and Pelosi and Kamala Harris sitting there, laughing and cackling, whatever she does, and and happy about this. Even Zelensky kissing Pelosi later, which it was kind of hard to watch, but man, it was it's terrible, Frank. It's terrible. Never in my life would I have thought that a foreign flag would have been lifted up in our Congress.
Yeah, bro. And as you look at all these people, they're so woke. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's wokeism to the extreme. As far as look at us as how inclusive and how open we are, and all this stuff. And of course, for saying what we're saying, we're labeled or branded a certain way. We're also censored or whatever on social media. But hey, look, we got to keep speaking the truth, and the truth is, man, you're right. The Ukraine is a corrupt place, and they're doing what they've done all over the world. And when I say they, I'm talking about our government, I'm talking about the State Department. I'm talking about the USAID, the Agency or Administration for International Development, sending money all abroad, and a lot of it, most of it, gets into corrupt officials' hands. It doesn't really do what it's supposed to do, or what they earmark it for, whatever. And a lot of it gets back to our elected officials. Case in point, these FTX, debacle that took place. But so
he's under house arrest in a $250 million mansion right now. So
yeah, and he came back home to mom. What's his name? But anyways, look, a lot of global issues, a lot of macro issues here, and so meanwhile, back on the border, stuff continues, and we were chatting about that as we walked in.
And it doesn't look, there's no indication of it stopping, of it ceasing or getting any better, and especially with this omnibus bill. I was looking at some of the text here, and it's amazing to me in this omnibus bill here, Frank, their answer for this is processing.
Yeah.
Right? More processing. No deportation, no returning, which maybe people don't understand that deportation is a little bit different than returning, but and we won't get into all the minutia about that. But there's no deportation; nobody's getting returned to their country of origin, and all the funds. As a matter of fact, it says none of the funds will be provided except for to acquire, maintain, extend borders. It shouldn't be used to acquire, maintain, extend border security, except for processing.
Yep.
Right, to improve processing. I'll put the text up here on the screen for those who are seeing. But to improve technology and the capabilities to improve border patrol processing. That's our government's answer right now to improve or.
In other words, expand and make more efficient. In other words, make the pipeline bigger. And we've been saying this, man.
Yeah.
We have been saying this. I hope that more Americans are waking up to this. But this is what we've been saying right here on the ground, people. The federal government is throwing more money at the issue. And in case in point here, this omnibus bill includes money to expand processing capabilities just to let more people into our country.
Yeah.
And so, and Republicans have not only did the senators vote for this, Manny, but we have had Republicans pushing for this, and we've been calling them out. That's why last year when people were talking about, Senator Cornyn, Cuellar out of Laredo, Sinema out of Arizona, and Gonzalez right here in Congressional District 23, they were talking about building more processing centers. They couldn't float a specific bill to do it back then. So what they did, what has happened, the pro-amnesty, open borders lobby, group within Congress, the establishment, the globalists, they put it onto this omnibus bill. And so all I can say to my fellow Republicans, conservatives in this district is, how do you like Tony now?
And it's incredible, Frank, that people get behind these rhinos, man, simply because they have an R next to their name. And we've been preaching that, ever since we began the show, this program. We're already on our 63rd episode, and I think from episode
Sounding the alarm.
We've been trying to sound the alarm, that these things were going to happen, that these things were going to start, going to take place. And we're seeing it's going to get worse, especially.
And more dangerous.
And more dangerous. The other day, here in Del Rio, look, when I was in the Border Patrol, I've been involved when I was in the Border Patrol, I've been involved in car chases, right? I've been involved in bailouts.
Yeah.
I know you have as well. And, but they never really took place in town, right? In Del Rio, in Eagle Pass. Sometimes on the outskirts, right on the outskirts, they would take place, but rarely would they go through the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we retired here in Del Rio, Frank, is because we love the calmness, right? It's peaceful. It's a nice little community.
As far as border town goes.
As far as border town goes, right? It's a nice place to bring up your family, and to enjoy things. And we got a lake and fishing. But and I live in a community, it was predominantly law enforcement, or we
Yeah, your neighborhood.
yeah, our neighborhood. And the other day, man, we heard all kinds of sirens going right down our street. I mean, there's kids on
Right
our
in front of
street,
your house.
right in front of our house. And apparently, they were chasing illegal aliens. It was a car chase, went right down our street. They ended up rear-ending a civilian, and then they bailed out into the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Right? They bailed out into the neighborhoods.
Yeah, and so talking about that, man, I mean, so think about it, folks. We have people who we don't know who they are. We just know it's persons in a vehicle. We know it's more than likely at that point they knew it was a failure to yield. They were going to bail out at some point or another, or try to make it, try to escape, make it back to Mexico, or just look for an opportunity to bail out. And so we're very fortunate that people were not seriously injured or died in that. Americans, and so that's right here in Del Rio, right down the street.
Complete disregard for human life.
Had that been, Manny, during the time when it's not the Christmas break, that crash happened right in front of the church school, Grace Community Church, and the nursing home right there, bro.
That's right.
And it's a major intersection leading to Buena Vista School, right down the street, folks. From
elementary school,
from an elementary school, a church school, and it's in a neighborhood. And case in point, as to we not knowing who they are, and you can only assume the worst, that they're armed, that they're dangerous, that they have, that they're obviously avoiding the law. They're not turning themselves into Abbott's troops down on the ground, where they'll be turned over to Border Patrol, Homeland Security, and Alejandro Mayorkas. But they're trying to avoid all that. And down the street, and I say figuratively speaking, in Brackettville, Texas, citizens were told to lock down at home, lock their vehicles, lock their houses, because 5 people escaped. In a car chase over there. And the reports and I saw social media, I've been looking, because we always want to verify, but there were comments being made by I saw one by a county official saying that these men, some of them shot at law enforcement.
Yeah, 2 individuals apparently shot at DPS troopers and other law enforcement officials while they were absconding. And we have some members of our congregation that live over there in Brackett, and they were texting me, Rabbi, we're not going to be able to make it to service because we're on lockdown right now. They locked down our community because individuals shot at law enforcement, and they're running throughout our neighborhood, and they're trying to apprehend them. And this has really never happened in our communities before. I mean, like I said, throughout my whole career, I mean, we've seen things.
There's been some,
we've been involved in things, but it's never gotten to this measure, right? And it's right now. It's every day, Frank. I don't know if you can do, because you live not too far from me. Well, everything in Del Rio is not too far, but every day I hear sirens over and over and over again. Helicopters over our neighborhoods every single night, every single day. People are running through the neighborhoods, and people say, "Well, what about Title 42?" Look, folks, Title 42 is loosely, if at best, enforced on anyone, to tell you the truth. Some people are returned under Title 42, but the majority of people are being released. Matter of fact, we're getting reports. I'm going to play a video here soon from San Diego. We're getting reports, Frank, that illegal aliens they're not even going to the processing center. Some are being released right. They pick them up and they take them to the neighborhoods and they drop them off.
They're not even bothering to process. And so real quick, we do have a video of the Brackettville, because there's a very key issue that we need to talk about, Manny. Yeah, it's the border. Yeah, it's the smugglers, et cetera, national security, et cetera. But let's play that video for the folks so they can watch that real quick, and then we'll comment on that.
San Antonio, people in Brackettville and Fort Clark Springs urged to lock their vehicles and lock their homes. Officials continuing to track down 5 suspects authorities believe to be armed and dangerous. You're looking at video that was sent to us from a viewer this afternoon. Now, the Kinney County Sheriff says that an incident began around noon today. It turned into a pursuit. It ended on Highway 131 toward Brackettville. All 5 people who were inside the vehicle that was being chased from authorities, those suspects got out and ran from law enforcement. The Texas Department of Public Safety and Border Patrol helping the Sheriff's Office in searching for the suspects. A large perimeter has been set up in the area. Anyone who comes in contact with any of the suspects, you are urged to call 911 immediately.
So there you have it. And they spoke about armed and dangerous. It didn't make it into the news, but comments all over social media, etc., talking about these guys fired at law enforcement. So that, of course, is a dangerous element. But this is the key point I wanted to make, Manny, that these persons, they're absconding, they're fleeing from police, from law enforcement, Border Patrol, etc.
Right.
And then they go into neighborhoods. They get into our community, and folks are told they may be armed and dangerous. And so this is the key point. You have to be armed. You have to be ready. As a Texan, as an American, as a human being, you have to be prepared to defend yourself. And that is why the Second Amendment is critical. And that's why the right to bear and keep arms is critical. And so I'm talking to my fellow Texans and Americans right now. If you are not armed, if you don't own a weapon, get one as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Get one as soon as you can. Work through whatever issues, work through whatever, concerns and qualms you have about it. But get you a weapon for home defense. Learn about it. Make it safe, of course, if you have children and other persons living in your home. But that is a fundamental right, Manny, is the freedom, the ability to protect your own life, to protect the life of your family, your loved ones, and your friends and your neighbors. And what's happening here on the border, Governor Abbott, is despicable. It is disgusting that this is happening in our country. We have spent billions of dollars on this. And our American citizens, communities have to lock down, and people have to drive down the road and be concerned about getting rear-ended or being involved in an accident where people have been injured and have died in Uvalde and Hondo, and our border communities. And Governor Abbott should have shut down this border, bro. At least a year ago when we started sounding the alarm.
We had an opportunity when all those Haitians were underneath our bridge. And folks don't get it.
For that too, man.
Yeah, folks, you hear a lot of those stereotypical towns, about those stereotypical towns, we really don't have to lock our doors. We really, we can sit, walk outside. Del Rio is like, Frank, there's times when we don't lock our doors in our car, and sometimes the front door's unlocked, or my garage door is wide open, and I've left it wide open sometimes for forgetting to close it, at night. I wake up in the morning, nothing's touched, nothing's gone, nothing's bothered with, but now we're making sure that all of our doors are locked because they're coming into our neighborhoods, and I'm gonna be honest with you, my guns are within reach now. I mean, I kind of have weapons stationed in certain places now.
Yeah, bro. I mean, look, this is as I was thinking about this, Manny. This is that's why I say it's disgusting. We have a governor who's saying what he's saying. The Biden administration, it is a foregone, bygone, conclusion.
Yeah, they're not going to do anything.
They're not going to do anything about it. In fact, what they are going to do is just expand the pipeline for drugs to get into our country, for future voters to get into our country, because that's what they're trying to do is change that element. And then the other thing is child and human sex trafficking.
Yes.
This administration is involved in that.
And they're complicit.
They're complicit in it, bro. And so for our governor to be sitting here, Governor Abbott, he's going to be inducted next month in January. I think he needs to hear from the border community. He needs to hear at his inauguration in January. Governor Abbott needs to hear that Texans are tired.
Yep.
They're fed up. And look, Governor, if you're not going to shut it down, if you're going to just continue speaking words. And yeah, you're sending troops out, and you're sending the DPS. I hear now that they're down here on a volunteer basis. They're not being actively deployed.
Well, yeah, because people are saying no, bro.
Well, but if he's not going to do it, then what do you want, Governor? You want us Texans to take care of it since you're not going to do it? At what point do Americans stand up and say enough is enough? My community, my family, myself, I am not going to live this way.
This is, my son and I were talking about this yesterday as well. He came down to visit. Now it's awful, man. Usually, a lot of times when he would be traveling down, I would tell him, "All right, son, when on your way, just be careful for deer." Now I have to tell him, "Hey, be careful for these car chases, man. Watch out because they're happening all over the place." But we were talking about. I told us, my fear is that as these, illegal alien car chases going through our neighborhoods and people running through our neighborhoods. My fear is that people are going to end up start getting hurt, know, because they're going to, when we would have bailouts out in the brush, right, or on the highways, the illegal aliens would run into the ranches and they would bust into the ranch houses, right, and or the hunting camps and stuff like that. It's not to say that they won't try to do that in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Try to bust in the house. And it's amazing because people say, well, these are just human smugglers. Human smuggling right now is more of a moneymaker than drug smuggling right now, because there's human sex trafficking going on. There's child sex trafficking going on. And so it's big money for the cartels. And so they get caught. They're losing money. So these people are not going to work. And they're going to do everything they can to try to get away, including taking shots at law enforcement, and this is what's happening. And so, folks, my sense, Frank, is that it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. So just the unofficial reports, what we heard and what we saw, is that they fired at DPS troopers as they ran away. The 2 weapons were recovered, allegedly, but. Look, this is insane, man, and it's no longer, folks. It's no longer, a faraway issue. This is here in our community, and if these are the types of people that would shoot at law enforcement, what would they do to an unarmed family? What would they do to a single mom living at home, to an elderly couple, just trying to live somewhere? And you're going to see more of this, in the internal cities, bro. It's not going to stay here on the border. This kind of person, this type of mentality, this kind of person with a lawless moral makeup is going to wind up inside the United States. They're going to wind up in interior cities. And so that's why we have been saying since, when Biden got inaugurated, and we saw these centers starting to pop up. That's why we started shouting out to Governor Abbott to start doing something to shut down those child centers, to find NGOs, loopholes. He's an attorney, for God's sake. Find the loopholes in the law, because the first thing they throw up, bro, is, well, that's a federal issue. No. It's kind of like saying, hey, your house is on fire. You got a freaking water hose right there, but you're not going to take a step towards it because that's a fireman's job?
Yeah.
No, you do what you have to do to defend, protect, maintain, your life, your way of life. And what we're seeing here, and I think about this a lot, bro. I think about how civilizations have fallen throughout the course of history. At what point did the nationals, did the citizens, did the people of that country, of that, wherever tribe or whatever, say enough is enough? Yeah. And last session we had one guy. I sent you the message, bro. He commented to me and said, the Border Patrol should have been around when
Native American,
for the Native Americans, when this country was being, founded, et cetera. Look, these are the people that are still, this is a part of Mexico and all that other stuff. But anyways,
I'm surprised you could type that with the holes in his sheet.
Yeah, bro. So anyways, but look, there's folks out there that honestly they want this to be happening. They enjoy seeing this,
and you can't help but think, Frank, and assume now that our government is orchestrating all of this.
It is, and it's being aided, bro. People are starting to make a big deal about the NGOs. We've been screaming our heads off about the NGOs since we started seeing this started happening, and we called it, bro. We said it right at the very beginning. My God, this is smuggling.
This is smuggling.
Being done by our government.
Yep.
Being done by the American government. These are all smuggling activities. They
were doing the same thing. You could take any border patrol agent, and I think
that had some time under his belt.
Yeah, that had some time under his belt, and we can just go look at the way these NGOs are operating. Yeah. We saw it the first couple of days, right? We're saying, man, this is a smuggling operation.
It's a smuggling operation. I was talking to my dad. He's a retired border patrol agent over the holiday season here, and we were talking about that, and we were talking about the similarities. The state, how they're being staged, and the load drivers are now the NGO bus drivers, and we talked about all the parallels of how this is a smuggling operation being conducted by Biden and Mayorkas, and being pushed down and shoved down the throats of our agencies, our federal law enforcement.
Who are gagged right now. The Mayorkas sent out a gag order, right, that they can't even talk about it or mention it.
And we applaud the U.S. Air Marshals, bro, that said, hell no, we're not going to go. Yeah. We're not going to go. Look, I'm talking to my brothers and sisters in green. Is that fever catch coming up on you?
They're in a tough
spot. Is
that
green flu starting to kind of boil up there a little bit?
I got this video sent to me yesterday by Gil Maza from All Patrol Headquarters in San Diego. Yeah. And, he said over this past week they've been releasing thousands into the neighborhoods. Now it's getting so bad that they're releasing illegal aliens in areas where there's really nothing, right? Yeah. There's really nothing, no neighborhoods, nothing. They're just kind of dropping them off in the middle of nowhere. And, and what's sad, Frank, as me and Gil were talking about last night, it's sad because the agents are put in the middle. Yeah. Right, they're in this tough spot where they really don't want to do it because our mission in Border Patrol is to detect, deter, and even remove illegal aliens from this country, right? But this isn't happening. I'm just going to show you real quick what Gil had sent me, and let me see if I can. But these are illegal aliens dropped off over there in San Diego, California, and they're basically in a neighborhood where there are no resources for them. So they don't even know where to go. They don't even know who to talk to, what to do. And regardless of what side you're on, and Gil said later on as well, regardless of what side you're on, this isn't right, but they're becoming so overcrowded in their facilities over there that they're just ordered to drop them off.
Inaugurated, sworn in on the 17th of January. I think he needs to hear from Texans. He needs to see that people are not only are they not happy, dude, it's beyond there was never about a feeling, emotional issue. Yeah. This is about the security of our country, our state, our neighborhoods, and our homes.
Yeah, our way of life.
It's impacting the security of our families.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do if one of these, criminals, because that's what they are, they're running, they're absconding, they're fleeing. What happens when one of these criminals gets a hold of a child, bro?
Yeah.
What happens if they break into a house and they kill the inhabitants of that house?
Yeah. Oh, I remember, in the patrol being out there tracking aliens in the brush. The brush is like areas away from the river. We would track illegal aliens that avoided detection at the river or at the border, and I remember having to tussle with a couple out there, man. Yep. And I always said to myself, man, these guys are willing to fight with me out here in the middle of nowhere. I have a gun, and come to find out, they had these, long criminal backgrounds, man. Yep. And of course they're giving you these stories of how poor they are, that they're trying to flee this and trying to claim asylum as well. But then you find out that they were actually wanted in the country that they were at for murder, for child molestation, and a lot of them, Frank, and we've seen this. We've also said this before. A lot of these illegal aliens that were removed under Title 42 previously are coming back, and they're being released.
Yeah, Title 42, man. That's the buzzword, and the media, wants to know about, hey, what do you think about Title 42? Whatever. Look, folks, first of all, we didn't even start seeing that for the most part until Trump. Trump used it under the Centers of Disease Control.
Yeah. And he had to because he was fighting everybody, trying to deport.
Because of what was happening, with the pandemic. But anyways, that was, it was a tool that was brought in. But it hasn't been around for decades. No. And the thing about it, folks, is that, and these were internal reports we were receiving. It was only being applied selectively.
Yeah.
Because look, it's about nuances. The government can say, yeah, we're using Title 42. Okay, you're using Title 42 to return people, get them out of the country. But then when you start breaking it down, is how many of the people that you are apprehending are being, sent out under Title 42.
And that's what I was about to say, because what's her name, the White House press secretary, I always forget her name. But anyway,
Frizzy hair?
Yeah, but all she has to say, right, is like, yeah, we're removing illegal aliens under Title 42, but every time they say that, they never show any steps.
Because they have better border control than we do. But anyways, but yeah, look, it's a foregone conclusion, man. Biden's, he's just a ghost in the shell there. Who knows who's pulling his strings. And that's why, my irritation this morning is directed at Governor Abbott. And even he was on the Tucker Carlson show, and I think Tucker said something that I said last year, Manny. I was saying, Governor Abbott, if you secure the border, if you get these people, round them up and send them across the river, tell them you're not going to cross illegally into Texas, into this state. I said it, you will be a hero. Americans will love you. Instead, he freaking buckled in, and he turned out to be a coward. Yeah, Governor Abbott, you're a freaking coward. But anyways, Tucker Carlson asked him, if you were to do that, you would walk right into the president's office. You would get elected. And so I don't know about that, but the sentiment is there, is that Texans, Americans want courage.
Yeah.
They want, the steadfast, action from their leaders. They want to see the meat on the bone. If you're saying you're going to do it.
Yeah, and and we've talked about it before. As Texans, we have this spirit within us. Of course, I'm not from Texas. Like the saying goes, I got here as quickly as I could.
Yeah, bro, we forgive you, man.
Thank you. But I love being here. Why? Because Texas has a reputation, right, of being the lone star. And sometimes I think Tennessee's reputation is getting, not.
Yeah, there's other states that are definitely more conservative.
Yeah, but you have this reputation. I remember a few years ago when I was in Israel, I was talking to some IDF soldiers, right, and they were asking me, where do you live in the United States? I said, I live in Texas. And they said, oh, we love Texas. We love Texas. And
Where's your horse?
Yeah. And they said, when we go visit America, the first place we want to go to is Texas. And I said, why do you want to go to Texas? Because we want to ride horses and we want to shoot guns. And I said, yeah, well, that sounds pretty awesome. But then later on talking to them, they said, well, we love Texas because it represents freedom. Yeah. And it does. I mean, the reputation that it has in other parts of the world is that Texas is a republic, a free state, but what we're seeing under this governor is cowardice, man.
Yeah, and some folks, and we've seen the arguments before. The federal government. Look, this is your home. I don't know how many analogies I can use here. I'll give you another example. You come up in a car crash. There's somebody on the ground that obviously needs at least first aid, if not, more, involved medical care. What are you going to do? You're going to stand there and watch that person? Why? Because you're not a medical expert?
Yeah.
I'm going to wait for the paramedics. You're not even going to try to do CPR or stop the bleeding? I'm not a medical expert. Look, man, the house is on fire. The body is bleeding out. You've got to do something, and the federal government has totally stepped outside of what it's supposed to be doing. It is in fact aiding and abetting not just the invasion of America, bro. We are funneling money outside the country, trying to start off, third world war here or something. Yeah. It's crazy that we are still sending money outside the country when we are trillions of dollars in debt. We're still just pipeline hose lines, sending the money outside the country. And so it is up. Look, Governor Abbott, what do you want Texans to do what you're not doing? Is that what it's going to take? Is it going to take for Texans to stand and defend their home because you're just talking? You've deployed the troops, you've deployed the troopers out there, but yet you're just playing games. Because I have filmed it, Manny, and others have filmed it. We have seen it with our own eyes that the state elements, the state agents, are not sending these people back into Mexico. They're rounding them up, they're consolidating them, and they are turning them over to Mayorkas DHS, only to be released into the country. Governor Abbott, stop playing games.
And I'm going to throw another variable out there, Frank. When I saw that video of those illegal aliens absconding after they took shots at law enforcement, in my mind, I was like, okay, so they catch him. Are they going to prosecute him?
Yeah.
That's the question now, Frank, that I'm getting from agents, right?
Yeah.
The other day I was talking to an agent, and they actually prosecuted. He told me this. He goes, "Hey, brother, you believe it or not? They actually prosecuted an illegal alien that assaulted an agent not too long ago." I said, "Really? And how many is that?" He goes, he just kind of shook his head like,
Yeah.
"Well, you and I both know." And the reality, folks, is that many of these illegal aliens that are assaulting our officers and our agents aren't getting prosecuted.
Yeah.
They're doing what's called paper casing, right? They take down their information, record it, take their fingerprints, and then they're being released on their own recognizance in many cases, which is sad because according to federal law, if an agent is assaulted, FBI has to get involved.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any FBI down here.
Well, yeah, man.
And so anyway, that's a whole different story.
Yeah,
right?
that's-
but that's the reality, folks. And we're not calling for violence. For
No,
people to go out.
but we
there
have a right to
but
defend
but
ourselves.
We have a right to defend ourselves. So we are calling this for defending your own home.
Yeah.
And to
Look,
be prepared to defend your own home.
Yeah, and be prepared. Be prepared. That's the thing, man. I mean, honestly, of the amendments, the Constitution. That is why the Second Amendment is vital.
Yeah.
It's critical because it's with the Second Amendment, bro,
Yeah.
that you defend the rest of the Constitution.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'm a religious man. I believe in the Lord. I believe in helping out my fellow man. If somebody comes with that needs food or starving or needs water, we're gonna, and we've done it. And the border patrol. I mean, I've given food to illegal aliens. I've given even a couple of dollars here and there, to because they were hungry and they were starving. But the reality is also, folks, is that along the way, I've encountered illegal aliens that want to do damage to our country, want to further their cause here in our country in regards to illegal activity. And this is what we're seeing. Those people who are absconding, those people who are running, the majority of them are illegal or criminal aliens that either have been here before or have some type of criminal record or are going to initiate criminality here in the United States.
Yeah, and look, there's been a lot of talk, bro, about some of these aliens. They're pressured into being the low drivers, etc., because they have a debt to pay or whatever, to the cartels. But there is a very dangerous element to this, and I'll tell you a real quick story, man. 277 North. Early on in my career, I was working with Agent
Highway 277.
Highway 270 North. Keith Bailey was my journeyman at that time.
Oh.
And it was dawn, and we saw a vehicle going north, and man, it looked loaded. It was riding low and everything, and so we get in behind it. Keith's driving, and he said, "Yeah, Frank, it's going to do something hinky here." And Keith is famous for always having a cigarette in his mouth. "I'm going to do something hinky here, whatever." And so he goes off to the right side, and the next thing you know, man, he freaking floors it, drives across the highway, and crashes into the gate on the north side of the highway there. Would have been the west side. But anyways, he crashes into it, and people start bailing out. So I'm a passenger, I take off, and Keith goes immediately for the group because they were wedged up against a fence, so he goes for the door that's not wedged in. And I take off after the driver, so he stumbled a couple of times, and he had a little help stumbling a couple of times, but I eventually caught him. So we bring him back to the station, and he had a rap sheet, bro, man, all kinds of arrests, incarcerations. He was a true criminal. I mean, a dangerous criminal. And so it was a good app. It was a good catch, but that was the fun and the glory of doing what we did back then. Now,
and I assume he got deported or jailed.
He was
deported.
prosecuted, exactly, bro. That was just back in the day, man. That was in the 90s. So, and so we also got word, when I say that, back in the 90s, to contrast what's going on right now, that it's shameful.
It is shameful.
It is shameful what is happening. It's I'm so glad I'm not in the Border Patrol, bro. Probably would have gotten fired by
my
now.
gosh, yeah.
I would have definitely have said something about the crap that is happening to that agency, to the Mean Green.
And Sad, I was talking about this the other day, with a couple of retired agents, and one of the things that, we're concerned with as well is that, if this stuff ever comes to an end, or slows down, a lot of this, it's very sad that a lot of the agents that we have right now that have come into the patrol recently, they're not really going to have the skills that they need once they get back onto the field.
They'll have to learn. It'll be OJT.
all over again. You're sharing a story in regards, to that illegal alien years ago, back in the 90s as well. Man, the 90s. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so we were at the river, there in Eagle Pass, and this a guide was bringing over a family, right? And he had a toddler on his shoulders, and he was going through some deep water, and we were yelling at him, "Hey, the water's too deep there. The water's too deep. You need to move over. You need to move over." And he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't listen, and he slipped, and the toddler went into the water. We ended up finding the toddler, a few days later.
Yeah.
But we had to end up rescuing this guy, right?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't listen to us. We pulled him out, administered, aid to him. And my partner was there with me and asked him, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And he looked at us and he said, it wasn't my kid. And we had to, how hard it was to restrain ourselves,
Yeah.
right, from enacting our any type of justice that we wanted to do, but we were bound by the law. We couldn't, of course, we couldn't, do anything. But this was, and then I thought to myself, man, these coyotes and these guides are heartless, and they are. People come to try to think or try to say, well, they're trying to help out their own people. Folks, you don't know how many times they victimize their own people. Frank, I've heard, and I know our agents, it's got to weigh on them. It's got to weigh on them when they're processing these family units and these women and these children and hearing these stories of how the coyotes abused them and beat them and even raped them, and in some cases leave them, out for dead. My concern with all this cold going on is once it starts warming up, all the bodies are going to find out there. It sounds cold and countless and dark, but that's the reality.
Yeah, and there's people that say, "Oh, well, look, man. I mean, that's why we were talking about. We have a moral obligation, Manny, moral obligation, to seal our border, to control our border, to secure it, to ensure that the orderly process we have in place is followed and obeyed. Yeah. But of course, that takes courage. It takes intelligence. It takes the will to want to do that. And so that's why, at the highest levels of our federal government, with a few exceptions of our elected officials, most are globalists. They've sold out to money or to ideology. We have a few brave souls out there that are at least sounding the alarm, doing what they're supposed to be doing. Enacting law, voting against stupid legislation, evil, destructive legislation. They're at least voting against it. We have so many rhinos that are voting along, working, crossing the aisle, bipartisan, working with the socialists who are running the Democrat Party. Socialist, globalist, godless people running the Democrat Party. And we have Republicans that are helping them by voting for their legislation, bro. I mean, when are people going to say enough is enough? We've had it. Yeah. And the whole time, that's why I'm reinforcing this morning. Your Second Amendment. You need to be armed and ready. Plain and simple. It's your God-given right, which was merely reconfirmed by our founding fathers when they wrote it into our Constitution. We have a godly right bestowed on us by our Creator. No one can take that away from us. The right to defend our home, our liberty, our very life. And when we say defend our life, man, some would say, well, what is property and home? Look, that's a part of our life.
Yeah, it is a part of it.
It is what we sweat and toil for, what we bleed for. And so, look, this new year, you need to be attentive. And then we're kind of rounding the turn here, going around the curve. This new year, you need to be engaged, be aware. And when I say, aware, read, research, study, three things right off the top of my head. Find out what is happening at your state legislature level. Find out what is happening. Research it. Get with groups that are already engaged. Just do the work. Do the research. Who is engaged in trying to affect legislation at the state level? That's critical, but also it's critical as we start getting ready for elections that are going to be coming up at the municipal level. Yeah. For school board, hospital district, other components of your community at the local level. Be aware, be engaged. If consider becoming a candidate or talk to folks that would be, good candidates and speak with them and not just talk with them. If they decide to take the plunge, support them, help them out. It takes effort, it takes money, etc. And then the third thing I would say, so engage, be aware and engage at the local, at the state level. And I would say this: prepare yourself, prepare your family.
Yep.
Prepare yourself. If you're on medication, stock up on the RX. If you know, just I'm gonna sound a bit like a prepper here, but you have to, bro. You know, I went to the grocery store. We have family come in, you know, over the last couple of weeks, and I went to the grocery store. Man, the price of a pack of chicken thighs, which is one of the cheapest cuts, you know, aside from the drumsticks, man, so expensive, bro. So expensive. It's gotten so costly. You know, let alone beef prices. and so you just have to be prepared, folks. You know, don't eat out as often and stuff like that. Redirect your funds, manage your funds in a more you know, wise, you know, be a good steward of your funds. And I'll say it again. You know, follow the legislation that affects our freedoms. I'm speaking specifically about gun legislation. Look at what's being floated out there that is anti-Second Amendment, anti-God-given rights to defend yourselves. Look at that legislation and become active in fighting against evil, freedom-depriving legislation out there. And on that day, also the 17th, there's going to be some pro-Second Amendment groups out there. If you happen to make it to Austin, I would say that you engage with those folks out there. And look, this is our country. Going back around to what I was talking about, man, thinking about other people that have stood in our shoes where we're at now, Manny, as they saw their country, their way of life being directly affected.
Yep.
They knew it was not good. It was ominous. You know, some of the more aware folks in those times knew that was not going to be good in the long term, in the long run, for their nation, their community, their way of life, and eventually for them and their family. And so I'm standing out here looking, bro. And I'm saying it does not look good, my fellow Texans, my fellow Americans, my fellow freedom-loving, created by God persons. It's not looking good.
And I'm not trying to be like a doomsday expert or anything like that, but folks, you know, Frank and I combined have over 50 years of, you know, Border Patrol experience and have seen things, you know, and kind of we look at the totality of circumstances. You know, when if I know somebody who has experience in a certain area, you know, true experience is honest about things, you know, and I'm not going to go and try to say, okay, well, you don't know anything, and I'm a, you know, better judge of that, you know, instead of, you know, especially if I live away from the area. You know, we're here right in the middle of the community, served over, you know, the Border Patrol, again, combined 50 years experience in Border Patrol, and are aware of the signs and indications of what is happening.
Yeah.
And I don't see it getting any better. As a matter of fact, I see people getting hurt. Because of what is happening now, as they're going through the neighborhoods, people are going to start defending themselves. You know,
good for them.
Good for them. But the reality, folks, human life is going to be affected. You know, human life is going to be affected. It can go either way. You know, somebody out there trying to defend themselves, somebody overtakes them. You know, there's all kinds of scenarios that could happen. And I'm not talking about what if this, what if that, folks. Things are going to happen. This is what I'm saying.
And so let me piggyback on that a little bit here, Manny. You talk about if, you know, what happens if folks defend themselves. One of the things that you need to consider, and that's why I say you need to do your research, prepare, and consider. You know, the Word of God says before you buy a field, you consider the cost. You know, before you build a home, consider the cost, etc. So consider the cost that our government, bro, the people that we elected. The vast majority of them, with very few exceptions, are godless. They are immoral. They are weak.
Yep.
They are sellouts, and they will betray you. They've already betrayed our country. They've already betrayed our state. They betrayed our Constitution. They will betray you. And so when a person betrays you, what does that mean? It means that you have no value to them. They don't care about you. And you know, and so one of the things that we have seen, Manny, here has been the conditioning, the preparation of the American population to be subjugated. to be controlled, to be shackled and bound and become prisoners in their own country. Look, and it might not be a literal, although it could possibly happen, a literal, putting of the shackles on, the handcuffs, whatever you want to call them. But it's just the way that, for instance, this situation in Brackeville, bro, locked down in your home for your own safety. Yeah. If you got stuff to do outside, put it on the back burner. If you're going to take care of stuff outside your house, put it in the back. Why? Why? Because why can't you be free in your own community? Why can't you be an American citizen just living?
Why can't you feel safe in your own home?
Yeah, that's ridiculous that we have to live that way, bro. And it's a gradual conditioning. And I remember when Raul Ortiz was down here back in 2020, I guess, 21, that he came, he became the chief. So that was, would have been 21 after Biden became the whatever. But anyways, a guy asked him, he said, hey, look, I got some daughters, 2 or 3 daughters, I forget the number. And he said, these people are running around, and I've called, and it takes 45 minutes for them to show up, and they told me they can't show up in time. What am I supposed to do? And I remember I'm sitting, excuse me here, I'm burping some of this coffee. But anyways, Manny, I remember looking at the guy, and 2 thoughts came into my head. First of all, the first thought was, what must the dude's wife think about him now? That he just freaking went out and said that. He may have not known he was on film, but he put it out there in public. What must his wife think? He's asking another man, what am I supposed to do to defend my daughters?
Wow.
What must his wife have thought about that? What must his daughters have thought? What must they have thought about that? The other thing, bro, was, what Ortiz said at that time, Chief Ortiz, was like, call law enforcement and wait for us to show up. And I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, that's your typical freaking big government response, man. That's your government response. We'll take care of business. We'll do it. You don't do it. And that's the conditioning, man. That's the conditioning that I'm talking about. And so you need to be aware of that. You need to be awake to that government thrives on crisis. Government thrives on disaster, and when it's not there, they fabricate it. Yeah. They make it up. I think about so many issues, man. Fast and Furious, man. Sending weapons into Mexico, and now, how many of these weapons that we're seeing being used in this border crime?
Well, as a result, Agent Brian Terry was killed.
Yeah, one of our border patrol
agents was killed with one of those Fast and
by
Furious
a
weapons.
government-run operation. The freaking ATF, who does not want the alcohol, tobacco, firearms. They don't want Americans to be armed, bro. They don't believe that we should be armed and willing to defend ourselves and being able to defend ourselves.
What's sad is I was talking to my kids about this over Hanukkah, and of course, we celebrate Hanukkah. It's not only to celebrate the Messiah, but it's also to it commemorates our fight against assimilation and to worship God as He commanded. What scares me, what's interesting is that I was talking to my kids. I said what worries me is not really sometimes the government, but people on our level who are willing to carry out the government's wishes and desires to disarm people.
The loyalists, what were they called? Tories, I guess, back in the founding days, bro. Yeah. But you have that. That's the sheeple principle, bro. That's the lemming principle. But then you're going to have those, I remember that movie Red Dawn where the principal freaking, he was the mayor of the community. Yeah. He gives in, man. He gives in, spineless people. They just give in. And so you have the Wolverines out there running around, fighting against, at that point, it was the Cuban troops that come in. Yeah. And anyways, look, folks, all I can think, man, and I know there's people watching that are saying, whoa, these guys are out there. Well, look, man, look, when you see smoke starting to come out of the attic, of a house, you see that smoke. What's your thoughts? Hey, the house could be on fire. Yeah. You see flames pop out. Hey, the house is on fire. And you see it getting bigger and you don't see a response. Yeah. What does that tell you? Is that government is going to be late, or they're just going to be inept, or they're going to be malfeasant and they are not going to do what they're supposed to do. In fact, they're gonna do the contrary. They're going to speed it up and make it worse by throwing more gas in the fire.
Look at surrounding areas in our communities, our border communities, and the ranches and whatnot. Many of the ranchers have to leave a couple people behind every time they leave their ranches because they have to defend their property because it's getting broken into, it's getting vandalized, things are being stolen, and people are being assaulted. And so our, even when we were in, it wasn't to this mass scale, but there were still people that were breaking in and
the hunting camps would get broken into out there.
But now they're coming into the communities, and folks, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden they become miraculously cleansed when they cross the river, right? That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to start doing the same things that they're doing out there.
They see opportunity, bro. It's like, look, man, a bunch of hyenas, bro. They see a weak animal, they're going to pile on, man. They go and they look for the youngest. They go look for the oldest. They go look for the weak. In a herd, and they cull the herd. And so they go and they take advantage of those that cannot defend themselves. And so that's why it's been part of a social engineering, conditioning of our culture and our society to get you to a point to where you depend on government and its players, its agents, to do what you have a God-given right to do. They want to replace. They want to be God in your life.
That's true, and sad to say, Frank, is we're seeing people today in our country that are willing.
They embrace it.
Yeah, they embrace it. And they're willing to give up their rights. They're willing to give up their freedoms, so that the government can. They believe we're going to take care of them. I remember years ago when.
Ask the kids in Uvalde about that.
Oh, I know. I remember when Trump was running against Biden in this last election, one of my family members asked me, why are you voting for Trump? And I said, well, because I'll never vote Democrat. And I gave my reasons, and then she asked me, well, what is Trump going to do for you? And I said, well, hopefully nothing. That's the beauty about being an American. I mean, I want to be able to do for myself, and that's why I believed in his platform. With the Democrats and with the left. They want to do everything for you. They want to control your lives. And the sad thing is, Frank, is that people are willing to give into that.
Yeah. Look, I'll tell you, man, and it's a sad statement in American society, but it's a sad statement, Manny. I'll say it, on the manhood of Americans, bro.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is you think about that. And I hate to use let's just throw it out there, man. Whatever took place in Uvalde, that was a government response, bro. Yeah. That was a government response. Government players, government actors, government agents at whatever level, from the school district on up. And yet, who did something, bro? Who risked life and limb? Who risked it to go get the children? I'm sure you heard about this. Yeah. The mother. Yes. There was a mother who was actually restrained. She was restrained, and they because she was trying to go in to go get her kids. She was restrained. They let her go. And what did she do after they let her go? She went back in and she got her kids out of there, bro. Yeah. And now, this is what I would say, man. It's not a far stretch from there, bro. It's not a stretch. It's just a few stones, few skips over. That what if, and man, people are gonna freaking cringe at this, but what if some other mama bears with the right training, with the right equipment, with the mindset that's already pretty much there. Yep. I hate to say it, bro, but maybe they would have taken care of business a lot faster.
Or who knows? Who knows? I mean, like we get the school down the road there in Comstock. I mean, they have a sign out there, right, that this facility is armed, right? Yeah. I mean, the people in this facility are armed. I mean, those things can change dynamics. They can change outcomes. And they can help people feel secure because we have that right. We have that right to defend ourselves, and don't let anybody tell you different. One of our listeners here, Sheena Rodriguez, brought up a pretty good point. If you're going to defend yourself and prepare to defend yourself, make sure you get some insurance, some type of insurance that'll help you. Because this is a sue happy nation.
Well, and not only sue happy, and that's why I kind of thanks Sheena for bringing me back on track on that. What I was saying earlier is, can you trust your government to? That would be the irony, bro, of it. Yeah. Can you trust your government to not come after you?
That's true.
They probably would. They probably would. I could probably say with 99% certainty that if you defend yourself in your home against an illegal alien invader trying to come into your house or in your house meaning to do your harm, that they would come after you a lot harder than they will with these people, man. Oh, yeah. And so, look, there's got to be definitely moral outrage at this, but with that moral outrage there is self-controlled, prudent action that needs to take place, bro.
Well, look, remember that couple, was it Idaho or I can't remember what state it was in when
Yeah, that was down in, wasn't that down in St. Louis,
something like
Missouri?
that, yeah,
or
Missouri,
something?
something like that, when Antifa was trying to get into their home, or BLM was trying to get into their home, and they
And when their neighborhood.
when their neighborhood, they're trying to defend themselves, and then they end up getting prosecuted.
Yeah.
This is
And look at the way they went after that kid, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, look, folks, a lot of things we've spoken about this. Yeah, certainly there's that border nexus, but there's bigger issues. Yeah. And so as we finish out the year here, look for those year-end specials. There's gun stores. Go do that. Palmito, out of Florida, a lot of folks, a lot of law enforcement use that. You just need to have an FFL, a federal firearms licensed person, to receive those weapons in your community. Maybe we'll do a session on that. I've been trying to get somebody on our show that's directly involved with that. But anyways, look, folks, as we close out the year here, yeah, we celebrated the birth of our Savior. But Jesus came, to destroy the works of the evil one. That's what he came for, man. Yeah. He came to die. Yeah. To die on the cross, to be that expiatory, that sacrifice for the human condition of sin. But he came to give us freedom. And part of that freedom that was given to us, eternal freedom, eternal relationship, but it's also temporal. It's for this life. And we have every right to preserve, defend that life. And so that's why today, this morning, part of what I wanted to speak about, following on the heels, what is happening here in our border community, and what is happening up and down this border, for us specifically, you have the right, folks, to prepare yourselves. And that means, buying a weapon and learning how to use it, and learning some tactics, learning some basic marksmanship principles and stuff. That there's folks out there. I was a firearms instructor. Myself in the Border Patrol for
educate yourself on what is happening. Yeah. Look at hold your elected officials accountable. Yeah. Hold their feet to the fire. And get behind people that are willing. He's also called us not only to be faithful, but to also expose the deeds of darkness, right? Yeah. And so to make things known. But let's not let the gospel suffer either. But folks, we want to thank you so much for joining us. I know we stayed a lot close to the issue of the border, but folks,
being attacked on so many different levels and from so many different angles, and the family is instituted by God. Yeah. And so that's why it's being attacked.
And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to offend. I mean, you're going to offend.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to
speak the truth.
You got to speak the truth.
The truth offends, bro.
Yeah. And especially don't be afraid to tell the truth to your children.
Yeah. Gap. And they need your help. Yeah. Manny brought us up here. I do want to say thanks to, but it does take resources, time, effort, gas, to follow this stuff around. So for me, folks, there's still some things. I got some irons in the fire here. But anyways, thanks for joining us, and thanks for being a part of our audience. Please like, share, and follow.
Yeah, and we want to, again, wish you a prosperous, happy and prosperous New Year, that is coming up. And so hopefully, God willing, it'll be a good one for our nation. But we'll, only God knows, folks. Only God knows. And so put your trust in God. Stay close as a family. Lift up the name of Yeshua, and may the Lord bless you and keep you. God bless you. God bless America, and God bless Texas.
Stay free, folks.